Welcome to our Tuesday night live broadcast. We are live every single Tuesday night here on the channel, and we do upload 4 times a week: Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And so if you have not hit that red subscribe button here on the channel, make sure to hit that so that you don't miss any weight loss tips, fit tips, healthy, delicious recipes. Look, I'm a former morbidly obese chick, so you don't wind up 288 pounds without knowing how to eat. It just doesn't happen. So like when you go from morbidly obese to skinny, one of my biggest fears was like, oh my gosh, am I gonna have to like suck on lemons and eat salads and all of that? So I absolutely love taking delicious, healthy, unhealthy foods and healthifying them, making them still delicious, but lower in calories. So if you want to be the beneficiary, if you want to, receive any of those recipes, make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss them when we upload them. Smash the like button. It really helps out our channel grow and reach more people here on YouTube. And so anyway, if you are watching us live, hi. And if you're watching the recording, hi. No matter which one you're watching. So tonight we're going to talk about overcoming the fear of failure. And if, I was a weight loss failure for more than a decade, which means I didn't want to be fluffy. I didn't want to be 288 pounds, but I was. And it wasn't for lack of trying. I tried. Like if somebody could add up how much money I spent on weight loss products, shakes, tonics, pills, stuff to inject myself with, like all the things that the DVDs, the workout DVDs that were still in the cellophane, the gym memberships, the trainers, all those things that didn't work for me. And if I could add that up, I know it would be a small fortune. And so I spent a decade on the hamster wheel of trying to lose weight. I spent a decade wanting so bad to lose weight, but failing. And even when I would lose weight, have you ever done this one? You go lose 20 pounds, woo! And then like 2 months later, you found it all again, plus a couple of buddies. Like you lose 20, you gain 21. You lose 30, you gain 32. Like I did this for so long, and that left me feeling defeated. It left me feeling that why try? Because even when I do lose it, I just gain it all back. It left me with several sizes in my closet, because when I lost weight, I'd go shopping and then I'd gain it all back, and then I'd have these sizes in my closet. It left me believing that maybe I was just big boned. It left me believing that my people just weren't little people. And sure, there was those little people out there that were blessed and skinny and all those things, but I just wasn't one of them. And this is what I started to believe after a decade of failure. It left me at a place where I had the attitude of, why even try? Why even try? Because I'm only gonna fail. Or why get excited about trying? Because if I get excited, then when I fail, I'll be even more disappointed. So if I don't get excited when I fail, I will only be so disappointed. It left me in a place where when I did try, I didn't want to tell anybody about it, because I didn't want I didn't want to be embarrassed when I failed. And so it left me basically bowing down to this fear of failure. And what I will tell you about the fear of failure has crushed more people's dreams than the graveyard ever will. So often people get to the end of their life, sadly, with all these regrets. And, if you start changing, fear, yes, I'll go there. Fear is a natural human emotion, okay? It is a natural human emotion. None of us are at fault for having fear. Fear is kind of what keeps us like safe, like fearing things we should fear. But fear is also tricky, because fear can also be used to keep us stuck. And fear can be used by us unhealthily to not take risks or to not take chances that we should take. Because let me tell you, there's a difference in risks, all right? There's a difference in here's a cliff and I'm going to jump and I shouldn't. Or I'm going to ask a girl out that I've had a crush on for a long time. Or I'm going to start this diet even though I failed at the last 10. If you have a risk in front of you and you say, is this going to kill me? And the chances are 99% of the time, no. Then it's a pretty safe risk. And I say 99% of the time because there's always some fluke thing you hear people die having sex every year. But as a wife, is that going to keep me from having sex with my husband that somebody died from it last year? No, the odds are I'm not going to die while having sex. So I'm going to go ahead and take that risk. I'm willing to take that risk on. Are you with me? I just have to say that because I know someone's going to say, well, Carmen, you could die doing this. Yes, you're absolutely right. But it's a risk reward type of thing. Are you with me? All right. I got way off track there. So when it comes to fear, again, fear kills more people's dreams than death or the graveyard ever does. Because we stay stuck and we allow fear to keep us immobilized. And when you start changing, and when I rewind years and years and years ago, I had to flip the way that I looked at fear. I had to flip the way that I looked at failure. And when I started flipping it around and changing the way I looked at it, it completely changed everything. So failure is not a validation of your incompetence. I'm going to say that again. Failure is not a validation of your incompetence. Failure is it is proof of courage. That's what it is. Failure is proof that you had the courage to try. It is proof that you were not a wimpy, whiny suckbag. I've been a wimpy, whiny suckbag a lot, and I stayed, look. And when I started looking at it from a point of, failure is proof that courage exists. It is not a validation that I suck. And when I started looking at it like that, it was totally. And then I think, we've all heard the stories of Thomas Edison, right? How many times the dude failed in making a light bulb. If he would not have persisted during all those failures, I would not be sitting here with this little mini ring light and all these lights up here in a resort in Florida. We're on vacation. We're supposed to be done with vacation, but we ended up extending it another week. So I would not be sitting here with light if he would have been gosh, I failed. I failed again. What is my neighbor gonna think of me? My wife's mother, my mother-in-law. What is she gonna think? Is she gonna think I'm a failure? Is she gonna think that her daughter married a no good, low down, dirty scoundrel? I don't even know what words they used back then. A no good for nothing, dreamer. Look, Thomas Edison is one of the most courageous men that I can think of. Why? Because he didn't succeed. Look, for the people that have failed, I failed for a decade and still kept trying. I choose to believe that makes me courageous. It makes me more courageous than someone who tried the first time and bam, they were successful. When you have never failed, failure builds courage. Failure builds belief. Failure makes you wise. Failure teaches you. Failure is the best teacher on the planet. Not a lot of negative things come from failing. And so I want to paint out a couple different options, a couple different scenarios, if you will, of a couple different scenarios. Because sometimes, at least for me personally, I get things when people give me examples. I'm not the sharpest pencil, the sharpest crayon in the box. So when people paint examples out, and I can be really stubborn and hard-headed. Anybody else really stubborn, hard-headed? You gotta be told several times sometimes before you choose to get it. So let's just say scenario one. Let's just say weight loss. Let's say you have struggled with your weight, whether you have been overweight your whole life, like that was me. You know, the smallest I can remember being was a size 7 in the 7th grade. And then, you know, moving on up into a size 12 in middle school and high school, eventually topping the scale at 288 pounds, busting out of a size 22. I was never I can't remember having a healthy BMI. Ever since I learned as an adult, ever. I just cannot remember having a healthy BMI. I was always considered overweight, obese, and then obviously finally morbidly obese, right? And so we're gonna use weight loss for an example, okay? Let's just say, for example 1, that you want to lose weight. And whether you have the baby weight to lose, you've always been overweight, you have the last 5 pounds to lose, the first 5 pounds to lose, whether you have 200 pounds to lose or you just have 10. Look, weight loss is weight loss. And so often people think that it's harder for somebody that has 200 pounds to lose than somebody who just has 10 pounds to lose. We all deal with the same psychological and mental struggles when it comes to weight loss, whether you have 200 or whether you've got 10. When you're sitting there, it seems like a mountain, especially when you've tried and failed over and over and over again. And so let's just say you have the weight to lose. In option 1, you decide to go for it. You decide to go for it. And you fail. You fail. You start a new diet. You start a weight loss boot camp. You enrolled in one of our, weight loss, 28-day weight loss boot camps. You started going to the gym. You signed up for Weight Watchers. You decided to do something. And 2 weeks in, you found it not working. Or you found you not working. Which is most likely what happened. You just found that it wasn't working. So let's really outline the bad that can come from this. Yeah, you kind of feel like a weak suck. Your ego might be a little bit bruised. You might feel silly. You might be embarrassed that you did another diet and you spent more money. Because let's be honest, anything that actually does work typically costs money. You're gonna have to do something different than what you've always done. In order to get change, you have to make a change. And if you ever meet somebody who's promising you the world and they're telling you it's free, I would run. I spent a lot of years being a freebie seeker, seeking all the free this and the free that. And that came from fear. It came from a fear of failing. Because if someone would have told me it was $1,000 or $500 or $250, whatever it was, and I knew that it was gonna work, I would have had no problem spending the money. None at all. The reason why I became a freebie seeker and I became cheap and I didn't want to invest into myself, which was betting on myself, is because I was afraid I was going to fail. I was afraid I was going to waste my money. So if you're sitting there and you're like, well, Carmen, I would never spend money on anything to do with my health. The root of that is lack of commitment and fear of failure. If you're not willing to bet on you and you're not willing to put your money where your mouth is, and look, I'm just being 100% honest, just as I had to be with myself. I never would have lost that weight if I stayed stuck in this fear of failure, lack of commitment area. And neither will you. And it doesn't do me any good or you any good if I fluff you up and I don't tell you the truth on what I had to face in myself to succeed. It's the same thing you're going to have to face within yourself to succeed at this. And so it came from, if you're sitting there like I was for a very long time, years and years and years, and I was like, I just went and sought out all the things that were free. I didn't want to spend any money. I wasn't willing to bet on myself. And if you're not willing to bet on yourself, then that tells you you're going to quit easily. If you're not willing to put in some skin in the game, you will quit as soon as it gets hard. The skin in the game is what keeps you persisting after you want to quit. And at some point on the road of weight loss, you will always want to quit. At some point when you're doing something hard, you will always want to quit. It's called the human nature. It's the way we were made. It doesn't mean you will quit. It means you will want to quit. Look, every person who has ever succeeded has had to persist beyond the point of wanting to quit. There always comes a point where you want to quit. All right? So you have to be willing to make that investment into yourself. And if you're not, that is a fear of failure See, fear of failure pops its head up all freaking over the place. But when you're not looking for it, you don't even recognize it. So, again, fear of failure. I just want to say this again because I want to beat this into your head tonight. Fear of failure is proof that, when you're willing to face the fear of failure, you're willing to take a risk. That means courage exists. And because failure is a part of success. Most of the time, we choose to look at failure as we can't or won't succeed. All right. Let me just look at my notes, make sure I'm not missing anything here. Oh, and then there's this, do we ever know anybody who's actually fearless? Do you know a human being that exists that is fearless? We wait for fear to leave. We wait, you're going to go get your goal body when? When the sun, the moon, and the stars line up, when work eases up, when the kids get a little bit older, when my husband stops being a jerk, when my boss stops, doing whatever the frick is doing or she's doing, when the world stops going crazy, when the corona leaves, I won't speak for us, I will speak for me. I used to always have a kick the can down the road mentality. When. I will lose weight when. I will wait until. When this is done, when that's done, when I get more time, then I will do it. Waiting for the perfect time. Waiting, and again, if I trace it all back, it all came back to a fear of failure. If I started a diet, if I committed to a diet and work was crazy, I always had reasons of why I would not succeed. And so again, in scenario one, if you start and you don't succeed, you have a bruised ego, you got some friends that maybe laughed at you. Well, in that case, thank your failure because those aren't your friends anyway. If your friends don't love you through your successes and your failures, then they're not the people you want in your life anyway. And all that failure did was just expose who they really are, which saves you a lot of time and headache down the road. But at the same time, you know what that failure did? That failure also made you wiser. That failure also gave you insight. And if you're smart, you're going to look at, okay, what did I do that caused this to fail? You're going to take responsibility for your side of the road and say, okay, what could I have done better? Where could I have been more committed? Where did I mess up? Where did I mess up? And that was something I did not do for a very long time. When a diet wouldn't work for me, I would always be like, oh, that stupid diet. Like somehow I thought there was this diet perfectly created for just me. Never taking responsibility. It was always the diet's fault. It was never my fault. It was the stupid diet. It was the dang diet. It was a waste of my money, a waste of my time. If I just found the right diet that was created just for me, then of course it would work. No, anyway, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. However, the worst case scenario is you fail, which just makes you stronger. Failure is preparing you for the success that is to come. You know the only way you will stay in failure is if you quit. If you quit, that's the only way you will stay. The only way you will stay in failure is if you quit. Because if you just keep going and you adapt the attitude of until, and if you've been on our channel for a hot second, you'll hear me talk about that a lot. It's not, I'm here for 30, 60, 90 days. That comes from a fear of failure mentality. It's I'm here until. I don't care if it takes me 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you're taking failure off the table, knowing you might fail along the way. But if you just keep going, then your only outcome is success. If you just keep going, your only outcome, your only option is success. All right? Let's go to option number 2. You've been failing. You've failed before. You muster up the courage to try again, to do it again, even though you know you might get embarrassed. Even though you know failure is an option short term. Because again, If you know that you can get knocked down but not out, I might get knocked down but I'm not out, then it's brief, momentary failure. It's not life failure. Momentary failure, momentary learning. That's all failure is. Failure is feedback so that we can learn and get better. That's all it is. And so you don't get better. And look, if you're not failing in life, you ain't doing squat. Like if you're like, well, Carmen, I ain't failed in the past 10 years. I have succeeded at everything I've done. Then you are not trying hard. Then you are not trying anything new. You are not challenging yourself. You are in a big fat comfort zone and nothing grows in a comfort zone. Everybody who is bettering themselves, reaching for more, is having momentary failure. Everybody, without exception, the most successful people on the planet will have momentary failure today. If you are a parent, you have momentary failure a lot. Anyway. All right. So option number 2, you're going to get started. You're going to choose courage. You're going to try again, even though you know failure is an option. And let's just say it does work. Let's just say in option 2, it actually works. Like it did for me 6 years ago. You know, I had failed for so long. And the time I started again, I committed again, failure was clearly an option. But I actually succeeded. I lost 161 pounds in 13 months. I went from a size 22 down to a size 2. Because of the transformation that I had, I actually won over $106,000 plus a couple all expense paid trips for a company to be able to use my before and after in publications. I got my life back. I became the mom and the wife that I always wanted to be, but for so long didn't have the courage to be. I succeeded for the first time in over a decade at not only losing the weight, but I'm sitting in front of you today. You're watching this video. It's almost 6 years after I lost the weight, like completely, and I've kept it off. Like I'm still a size 2, even after having a third baby. You know, you gain some weight when you have a baby. Having a third baby come out of my body. That baby is 7 months old today. Well, she's 7 and change, 7.5 months old, somewhere in there. And I'm still back down to size 2. So the first way that I not only lost it, but sustained it, like maintained it, which is a huge deal. So that's option number 2. Option number 1 is you get started and you fail. You get wiser. You get some more insight. Option number 2, you get started and you fail. I'm sorry, option 2, you get started and you succeed. It actually works. Like, wow! Best option, right? You get started and it actually works. That does happen for people. Option number 3. And unfortunately, this is what most people do. After having option number 1, a failure happen so many times, they start to believe option 2 is not an option for them. It's going to work for everybody else, but it's not going to work for me. And so they start doing option number 3, which is doing nothing. Option number 3 is doing nothing. If you know you're not healthy, if you know you need to lose weight, you have one of 3 options. You do something and fail, which we do a lot before we do option 2, which is do something and succeed. Or we have option number 3, which is do nothing. And there's a consequence. There is a reaction to every action. A consequence, good or bad, to every single one. The only consequence I would not want is option number 3, doing nothing. If I go to the doctor today and the doctor tells me, Carmen, you have high cholesterol. And I go, okay, thanks, doc. And I go home, I throw away the papers, I throw away the test, out of sight, out of mind. I don't want to think about it. In 10 or 20 years, and I change nothing, I do nothing, does it just go away? If I do nothing, does that problem just go away? No, it doesn't. In 10 or 20 years, I could be on the operating table having a double, triple, quadruple bypass surgery. God forbid I could end up dying because of a heart attack. if I do nothing, if I choose to do nothing. And we're in 100% control what option we take. But there is a consequence for everyone, good or bad. Consequences aren't always bad. Sometimes they're good. But there is a reaction to every choice that we make. And so often we sit there and do nothing because we're trying to protect ourselves. And we don't want to fail again. And we're trying to protect our ego. We're trying to not get embarrassed. We're trying to protect ourselves because we don't want to get excited. What if we fail again? Or what if we go sign up for something and we have to bet on ourselves and make an investment and then we fail? Then what? So we do nothing trying to protect. And in all actuality, it's doing much more harm than going for it. Because failing is not a validation of your inadequacies. Failure is not a validation of failure does not equate to who you are. Just because you have a track record of failure doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you are that much more prepared to succeed than the person who hasn't failed. If you have failed 100 times, you are so much closer to breakthrough and success than the person who's only failed 50 times. If you talk to anybody who has succeeded at anything, including weight loss, in 99% of all cases, those that have succeeded have failed more. They just were willing to persist. They just were willing to have the courage that when they got knocked down, to get back up and go again. When they got knocked down, to say, I'm maybe knocked down, but I'm not knocked out. So I really want to encourage you tonight that, or today, or this morning, or whenever you're watching this video, no matter how many times you have failed, no matter how many times you have gotten knocked down, even if you chose to stay down for a month, a year, a decade, it's your time to get back up. It's your time to take all those failures that have prepared you for your future success and go at it again. And so anyway, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have not given the video a thumbs up, please do that. It really helps out the channel. Make sure to hit the red subscribe button, and we